Before we dive in, I want to know, which city are you watching from? Drop it down in the comment box right now. Now listen carefully. We're living in a generation where love doesn't fade, attention does, where connection isn't built on time, it's built on patterns. And women under 28, they're not thinking about dating the way they used to. Their psychology has evolved. Their attraction is coded by algorithms, shaped by data, and driven by digital instincts. This isn't the same emotional game your parents played. This is Gen Z dating psychology. A world where softness is strategy, where affection is calculated, and where intimacy comes with an expiration date. So sit back, turn up the volume, and really listen. Because once you understand how women under 28 actually think, you'll never look at modern attraction the same way again. The algorithmic attraction loop. Gen Z women are not falling in love the same way their mothers or even their older sisters did. Attraction has evolved from emotional curiosity to algorithmic conditioning. Every swipe, every story tap, every like, every micro-interaction is data. The modern woman under 28 doesn't just meet people. She experiences them through a lens of digital rhythm, patterns of attention, frequency, and timing. In the digital age, chemistry isn't about butterflies anymore. It's about patterns that feel familiar, signals that feel predictable, and timing that feels intentional. What once sparked through human connection is now orchestrated by algorithmic reinforcement. The algorithm teaches behavior. It rewards availability and punishes silence. It shows her who to desire by frequency of exposure. The more a man appears, the more he feels like belonging. It's not that she's consciously aware of it. It's just that her emotional wiring has adapted to repetition and digital validation. Every notification becomes a microdose of dopamine. Every response becomes proof of interest. And every pause becomes emotional withdrawal. Gen Z women grew up in a reward-based system of attention, where emotional hits are faster, smaller, and more frequent. They crave intensity, but their attention span is conditioned for fragments. That's why a single message can mean everything and nothing at the same time. It's not just what you say, it's how and when you say it. The algorithm has blurred the line between emotional connection and engagement metrics. The more emotionally predictable you are, the faster you become background noise. The more mysterious and pattern-breaking you are, the longer you hold her subconscious attention. Gen Z women are not just falling for charm or looks, they're reacting to rhythm, the pattern of consistency mixed with unpredictability. It's not attraction in the traditional sense. It's behavioral data turning into desire. She doesn't chase, she curates. She doesn't wait for fate. She filters for patterns. She observes your timing, your tone, your energy, and subconsciously matches it against hundreds of digital experiences stored in her mind. Every man becomes a data set, compared, categorized, and measured by emotional returns. When she says she's not feeling it anymore, it's not that she's cold, it's that her data set has shifted. Someone else matched her new pattern, and her emotional algorithm recalibrated without warning. What makes this generation different is their emotional elasticity. They can detach faster because they've been trained to adapt to digital disconnection. The algorithm has taught them that replacements are infinite, that attention can always be redirected, and that loss doesn't require grief, only a new feed. Yet beneath the polished detachment lies quiet exhaustion. Gen Z women aren't less emotional. They're more overstimulated. They're consuming attention faster than they can process emotion, so they filter out anything that feels slow, uncertain, or inconsistent. To connect with a Gen Z woman is to understand the psychology of her attention loop. It's not about chasing. It's about interrupting her pattern. It's not about constant presence. It's about meaningful frequency. She doesn't want endless validation. She wants emotional calibration that feels authentic in a world built on performance. In this new landscape, attraction isn't just about compatibility, it's about rhythm. Whoever controls the rhythm controls the connection. Emotional minimalism in modern dating. Women under 28 have learned to navigate a world where emotions have become currency, and oversharing can cost you power. Emotional minimalism isn't about being heartless. It's about survival in a time when vulnerability is exploited, screenshots become evidence, and emotional exposure is no longer intimate. It's public. Gen Z women grew up watching emotional chaos play out online, relationships unraveling in real time, and heartbreak turned into viral content. So they learn to feel silently and express selectively. They choose when to be open, not because they're cold, but because they understand the risk of emotional transparency in a digital world that never forgets. The modern dating environment rewards composure, not vulnerability. If she shows too much interest, she loses leverage. If she opens up too soon, she becomes replaceable. Emotional control has become her armor. She's learned to play detached because she's seen how emotional intensity is misread as desperation. Emotional minimalism isn't about feeling less. It's about rationing emotional energy in a culture that constantly drains it. Every text, every reply delay, every subtle withdrawal isn't random. It's a psychological defense. It's her way of protecting peace in a system designed to create emotional noise. Gen Z women live in a constant state of emotional observation. They are analyzing not just what you say, but how consistently you mean it. They've seen promises broken through digital trails, watched affection fade through unread messages, and learned that words are cheap when attention is divided. So they invest less upfront. They give slowly, not because they don't care, but because they've seen too many people love loudly and leave silently. For them, emotional restraint isn't a lack of interest. It's a sign of intelligence. The culture of hard to get has transformed into a mindset of emotionally efficient. A woman under 28 doesn't need to be chased. She needs to be respected enough to feel safe expressing emotion without being judged for it. But safety is rare in modern dating, so she filters connection through caution. She hides depth behind humor, pain behind sarcasm, and longing behind detachment. When she says she's fine, it's not indifference, it's fatigue. She's tired of proving her worth in a dating economy that rewards indifference over intimacy. Social media has trained her to display emotions strategically. She knows when to post, what to share, and how to appear in control even when she's not. Online, she performs composure. Offline, she analyzes every signal. Emotional minimalism gives her stability in a space where affection is fleeting and attention is unstable. The less she feels publicly, the more control she maintains privately. And in that control, she finds power, even if it costs her connection. Men often mistake her emotional distance for disinterest, but it's deeper than that. She's learned that being emotionally transparent too early leads to disappointment, so she mirrors your energy, reflects your effort, and only invests when consistency proves safe. This generation doesn't beg for validation, they measure it. They value emotional boundaries over emotional indulgence. They understand that peace is more valuable than passion if passion means instability. Emotional minimalism isn't her weakness, it's her discipline in a world that confuses chaos with love. The soft girl versus strategic girl duality. Every woman under 28 today lives in two emotional worlds. The first is the soft, expressive, dreamy version of herself, the one that still wants to believe in connection, that still wants to feel seen, held, and understood. The second is the strategic self, the one who knows exactly how much of that softness she can show before it becomes vulnerability. This duality isn't fake. It's her survival strategy in a dating culture where authenticity can be punished and naivety can be exploited. She is both emotional and analytical, both tender and tactical, and this constant balance defines the modern Gen Z dating experience. The soft girl identity thrives online. It's the curated aesthetic of vulnerability, emotional quotes, cozy lighting, gentle captions, soft tones that signal openness and depth. But that softness doesn't mean she's naive. It's an emotional language she uses selectively. The same woman who posts about self-love and healing might also be calculating her digital presence with surgical precision. Every word, every emoji, every caption is data-driven, designed to communicate emotion without surrendering power. What looks like unfiltered emotion is often strategic transparency. She lets you see what she wants you to see, not what she truly feels. Offline, the strategic girl takes control. She's not playing games, she's reading the game. She observes how quickly you reply, how often you initiate, and whether your words align with your consistency. She doesn't chase chaos, she studies it. She's learned that modern romance is a system, and systems can be gamed. Her detachment isn't coldness, it's analysis. She feels deeply but responds logically. When she distances herself, it's not out of disinterest. It's to test whether your attention was genuine or conditional. Her generation doesn't rely on intuition alone. They rely on patterns, timing, and proof. The duality between soft and strategic isn't contradiction, it's calibration. She can post a heartfelt playlist one moment and ghost your text the next, not because she's confused, but because she's protecting emotional control. The soft girl in her craves emotional intimacy, while the strategic girl monitors emotional safety. One part wants to trust, the other part refuses to fall without a plan. This internal tug-of-war is what defines modern female psychology under 28, the constant oscillation between openness and caution, between emotion and control. Social media has amplified this divide. Online, she's rewarded for vulnerability. Likes, comments, emotional validation. Offline, she's punished for it. Ghosting, mixed signals, emotional manipulation. So she compartmentalizes. The internet gets her softness. Real life gets her strategy. It's not deception, it's adaptation. The emotional economy she grew up in taught her that if she doesn't control her narrative, someone else will. So she became both the author and the editor of her emotional story. Every interaction becomes a performance of balance. She wants to connect but fears being consumed. She wants to love but refuses to lose control. When she pulls back, it's rarely rejection, it's recalibration. She's constantly managing perception, both her own and yours. The soft girl in her whispers what she feels. The strategic girl decides when to say it. Together, they create the modern emotional identity of the Gen Z woman. Not fake, not manipulative, but perfectly aware of how the digital world has turned authenticity into strategy. The rise of data-driven desire. Attraction used to be instinctive, emotional, unpredictable. But for women under 28, desire has evolved into a process, something filtered through logic, repetition, and subconscious data collection. Every text, every interaction, every story reply becomes a variable in her emotional equation. Gen Z women are not guessing who to like, they're analyzing who deserves it. Their desire isn't impulsive, it's data-driven. They're drawing conclusions from behavior, not promises. They notice frequency, tone, timing, and patterns that most people overlook. In their world, emotions don't exist without evidence. Growing up in the digital ecosystem taught them how to read signals at scale. They've seen thousands of conversations, comparisons, and confessions through social media. They've internalized emotional analytics, how people act when they're interested, how quickly attention fades, how consistency separates interest from convenience. They know that attraction is rarely about one big moment. It's about the accumulation of small ones. They track effort like an algorithm tracks engagement. If a man's attention drops for too long, her system flags it. If he stays consistent, her emotional trust slowly increases. It's not love at first sight anymore. It's trust through patterns. Screenshots are their memory banks. Group chats are their data labs. Every romantic move is dissected, discussed, and compared against others' experiences. When she decides to invest emotionally, it's not because of luck or charm. It's because the data aligns. She's subconsciously cross-referencing you with every emotional outcome she's witnessed online. That's why it's harder to impress her with surface-level charm. She's seen the performance before. What draws her in is coherence. When your behavior matches your words, when your patterns reflect stability, when your digital presence mirrors emotional consistency. This generation's psychology of attraction has shifted from fantasy to evaluation. The disappearing intimacy window. For women under 28, emotional intimacy doesn't last by default anymore. It has an expiration date, one that arrives quietly and without warning. It begins as deep connection, constant messages, shared memes, late-night calls that feel like something real. But slowly, attention fades, energy shifts, and the bond dissolves. Not because the feelings were fake, but because the digital rhythm of connection moves faster than the emotional capacity to sustain it. Gen Z women live in a world where intimacy competes with notifications, where attachment battles distractions, and where consistency is a rare currency. The window of intimacy isn't closing because women are colder. It's closing because attention has become fragmented beyond repair. In the past, relationships were built through time and proximity, seeing someone daily, talking without filters, building familiarity. Now, Intimacy exists through screens, where everything is temporary, where even affection feels like a post waiting to be scrolled past. For the modern woman, the initial spark feels intoxicating, but it fades the moment effort feels one-sided or energy becomes inconsistent. Her attention is trained to adapt quickly. Her emotions are conditioned to move on fast. This doesn't mean she doesn't feel. It means she's learned to protect her emotional bandwidth. When that intimacy window closes, it rarely reopens. Once she senses emotional imbalance, when your messages slow, when the energy drops, when the tone shifts, she doesn't confront it. She detaches. The same instinct that made her fall quickly now helps her disconnect faster. She doesn't wait for closure. She creates distance. The same emotional intelligence that once helped her bond now helps her escape. Gen Z women understand that in digital spaces, overinvestment leads to heartbreak, and silence often says more than words. They crave emotional closeness, but they also fear emotional instability. They want to feel deeply, but they've been trained to move strategically. The disappearing intimacy window is a result of overstimulation. Too many options, too many mixed signals, too many micro moments that feel intense but fade without resolution. A like becomes a spark, a text becomes a sign, a call becomes hope, and then it all collapses because attention shifts elsewhere. Emotional momentum dies faster in a generation raised on scrolling. The next notification becomes the next distraction, and the next distraction becomes the new connection. Gen Z women are not running from love. They're running from emotional exhaustion. They know how it feels to give energy to someone who disappears without warning. They've learned to protect their peace by shortening their emotional investment timeline. They no longer romanticize consistency. They require it. If connection feels like chasing, they stop running. If attention feels conditional, they withdraw. Their detachment is not bitterness. It's a modern adaptation to emotional volatility. The intimacy window closes faster because the emotional timeline has been compressed by technology. What used to unfold over months now happens in days. The highs are higher, the attachment is quicker, and the fall-off is sharper. Once the rhythm breaks, rebuilding becomes nearly impossible. Gen Z women are fluent in emotional efficiency. They know when energy shifts, they feel when attention fades, and they act before it hurts. Intimacy has become a race against distraction, and only those who can sustain emotional presence survive in that narrow space where connection still feels real.